Media Land. This is Ted Victor, founder of the Broward Social Network. Today is Thursday afternoon at approximately 5 p.m., Thursday, July the 23rd, 2020. And today we have a wonderful guest, Judge Vegina Hawkins, Broward County Circuit Court Judge in Florida, correct?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Victor. How are you?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Judge Hawkins, I've been meaning to do this interview with you for quite some time for several reasons. I am honored and I am extremely very happy to be here with you today so we can have a conversation, and also so that the community, and particularly my students, I'm an educator at heart, and I do these interviews for academic purposes so that you, which is something that you do 7 days a week, 365 days a year, inspire young people. So let's start with you introducing yourself and let us hear about your wonderful journey of how you became a judge.
Great. Thank you so much. And let me start by saying, Mr. Victor, the pleasure is all mine. And yes, we have been trying for quite some time to make this happen, but you know what? Perseverance is key. So we're here and I am humbled, and I thank you, and I would certainly thank your viewers for tuning in. A little bit of background about me. As you've already stated, I am now your incumbent circuit court judge in seat 50 for Broward County. My journey to becoming a judge. So let me start by saying I am Broward County born and raised. I've been here all my life with the exception of going off to college, and then for a very short time I was away as a military wife. We'll get to that in just a few minutes, but I matriculated through Broward County Public Schools. I am a 1990 graduate of Miramar High School, go Patriots. After graduating from Miramar High School, I went on to further my studies at the Florida State University, go Seminoles. I graduated from Florida State University in 1995 in the area of communications and with a minor in theater.
Well, that's interesting because I'm pretty sure you need a little bit of theater for the courtroom.
Oh yeah, but I was back then a very avid writer and an actress. So I did a lot of on stage things. So I was very much interested in the arts. After graduating from the Florida State University, or just prior to graduation, I actually got married to a sweetheart who is an Army vet. We've been now married 26 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We have 3 beautiful children together, 2 adult sons and a 13-year-old daughter. My middle son recently made me a mother-in-law, so I have a daughter-in-law.
Awesome.
After graduating, thank you. After graduating from Florida State, I came back home. Of course, got busy doing public service, started working, and started a career at the Broward Sheriff's Office as a corrections officer. While working at the Broward Sheriff's Office, I started law school. So while working full time, I went to school at night, started law school. I had 2 young sons at home, a husband at home, and I was a law school by night, a corrections officer by day.
Please pardon me for interrupting. Let's just slow down a little bit. Was this always the goal? Was this something that kind of developed as you were a corrections officer?
My goal to becoming an attorney, since a very young child, I was one who watched Matlock with my, with my grandmother.
Because I was going to ask you, where did the inspiration come from?
I wanted to be an attorney from very, very young. But I lost, the fever as I got older. And I will say I entered into the field of law enforcement and public service while working at BSO. And as a matter of fact, one of my coworkers was studying for the LSAT. I helped her study, and then all of a sudden that fire came back. So I decided to go ahead and sit for the exam myself. I talked to my husband about it and we both decided why not. So I took a stab at it. I took the test one time and I wasn't sure what they were going to say, but I called Nova because it was nearby. I knew I had to work.
Right.
Had a young family and we just couldn't afford for me not to work at that time. So I said, if I could do it part-time, I'll do it part-time. And that's where I started law school.
Okay, so
I
you
went
went to
on,
school, you went to school after work. You went to school after work. So you worked, I'm guessing 9 to 5, and you went to school from maybe 6 to 10. How many nights a week?
nope, that was not my schedule. Believe it or not, when I started law school, I was working the night shift.
Oh, okay, okay,
I
okay.
went to school in the evenings from 6 p.m. till about 9:30. I would take my uniform in the car with me, change at the law school, and be at the jail by 10:45 for roll call. My shift started at 11 o'clock p.m. till 7 a.m. in the morning. I would rush home after work. My husband and I, he's a mailman, he would do the exchange of the children. I went to, got home, got the kids ready for school. I put them on the school bus. And after getting them off to school, I would come home and take a nap. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or sorry, by 1:30, I would get up, cook dinner, and by 3:30ish, go to get them off the bus, do homework. And by 6, I was out the door to head to class.
When did you study?
I didn't, believe it or not, I went to school 4 nights a week.
Mm.
I worked, of course, 5 nights a week.
Mhm.
My lieutenants at the jail were very gracious. They allowed me to bring my books in. And because I worked night shift, the inmates would be sleeping most of the shift. So I would have a little night light and I would do most of my briefing and reading case law right on the job. When I
Okay,
didn't have to go to work, I would study at home, of course.
okay, so pardon me for interrupting again, because this is an interesting conversation. One of the, and this, with the Broward Social Network, it wasn't the plan, it just kind of morphed into what it is now. One of the major satisfactions I get when I do interviews is to kind of find out the secrets and the path to success. And I'm kind of investigating that with you because I'd like my students and anyone who has a goal, major goal, such as being an attorney, being a judge, will have to understand that one has to kind of plan and discipline themselves and organize the time of day, manage their time in order to be able to reach that goal. So you are where you are now, which is a great accomplishment. However, I'm more interested in you telling us how you got there, because that's amazing to be able to kind of balance children, being a wife, school, and work. That's not a small accomplishment. That's major. And I commend you for that. And I don't think I'll stop commending you for that. So please continue, and pardon me for interrupting.
No, it's okay. And I appreciate it. But I will tell you, you're absolutely correct. Time management was on, that's what got me through that, and a whole lot of praying, I'll tell you that. But I made it through and I'm thankful. I am so humbled. The experience it was very hard. It was tough, but it's something that I would never change. It caused me to be a person that is resilient. I persevere through some of the hardest things in life. And it's because I've learned that you just don't give up. You give it everything you have. And so after graduating law school, I did very well in law school. I graduated law school, and
How many years? Three years, 4 years?
it took me 3 years, 3.5 years. It should have taken me 4, but right in the last year, we decided that I would resign from BSO, and so that I could continue and finish my law school during the day. So I was able to take on more classes so that I could get through with it. And I'll be quite honest with you, it really was at the unction of my oldest son, who was about, I forget how old he was, but he kind of looked up at me one day and said, you know, Mom, are you going to school again tonight? And it broke my heart. So I sat down with my husband. I said, the kids are getting tired. Is there any way we could afford for me to just go this last year without having to work? And thank God I have a very loving and understanding husband. He said, absolutely. If I got to take on an extra job, I'll do whatever I have to do. You quit. And it was nothing small to walk away from a salary at BSO after 5.5 years. But I did that so that I could go ahead and finish law school and get back to being a full-time mom. So I
Well,
finished law school.
very quickly, major shout out to Mr. Gerald Hawkins. I'm in Pembroke Pines. You guys are in Miramar. Major shout out and respect to you and your family, because if he wasn't holding it down, doing his part, I guess you would not necessarily be able to at least let your mind wrap around those books and those studies, because you have to make sure that your kids are safe, they're eating, they're sleeping, they're getting their homework done for you to be able to, and I respect brothers doing the job that's necessary for a family to be successful. So thank you, Mr. Hawkins, and I will be speaking to you soon on this platform and your team. Thank you. So
Yes.
you graduated law school after 3.5 years. What next? You have to study for the bar.
I studied for the bar. I studied so hard because all I could think is I cannot
Right.
afford to pass the first time. And I did. I passed with flying colors the first time out. And my
Did you
husband
take a
allowed,
review? Did you take a review course?
I did. I took the PMBR and I took the Barbary.
Okay.
PMBR was for the multi-state and the Barbary course covered the Florida law. So I took both review courses. I studied, and it was very hard for me because we made the decision to allow my children to spend that summer in Avon Park with my in-laws. And so the kids were away, and I studied. That became my job for the summer. I woke up in the morning, I got out of bed, I showered as if I were leaving the house,
Mhm.
and went to my kitchen table, and I stayed there for 12 to 14 hours a
I
day.
was going to ask you, how many hours a day did you study?
12 to 14 hours a day.
Did you take a
And
break at all, 7 days a week? Or
I took my break, and I promised myself that I would have a 1 day break
Mhm.
every week. And because I'm very avid, I'm very connected to my faith, very rooted in my faith.
It's
And
necessary?
at the time, I was also the choir director at church. And so that singing is an outlet for me. So I wouldn't give that up. So I said, you know what, that's my day and I come from a very close-knit family. We spend Sunday afternoons together. We all go to church. We come home, we eat dinner together at my mother's. So that was my outlet. I said on Sundays, the books, I put them down. I go to church. I enjoy church service. I come home and I spend the day with my family. So Sundays was my break day. So 6 days a week, I studied anywhere from 12 to 14 hours, of course, with lunch breaks and bathroom breaks, but I studied vigorously to get through it. And it was tough, but I did it. My thought process was it's 14 weeks between graduation and the bar exam. I got to make it happen. And so I did. And thank God I did. I passed the bar exam. And then my husband said, what are you going to do? I said, can I take a couple months just to breathe?
Just to
He said,
breathe.
absolutely. So I took a couple months off, and then I started on my path to putting in applications and doing interviews. Um, Public service has always been a part of my life. My parents were public servants. We always been active in our church, active in our communities, making sure we give back. My father is a teacher. He speaks at the nursing home at least twice a month. So we were very, very much into public service. And so I wanted to go that route. And I interviewed with both the public defender's office and the state attorney's office.
Mhm.
And after determining that I thought the state attorney's office was better suited for me because it gave me an opportunity to do the right thing for the right reasons, I took the job with the state attorney's office. And I started there, enjoyed it, started out doing DUIs and simple batteries, and worked my way up to the domestic violence unit. After about 2.5 years in, I got an opportunity to work at a very large foreclosure firm in private work. We had thought about building a home, and we were working on it. So I needed to make more money. I went and did foreclosures for a while, a little over a year, and then decided I was going to go on my own. I opened my own law firm on a wing and a prayer. And it was successful, word of mouth only. Never could afford at the beginning to do advertisement, but word of mouth is what brought the business in, and I was doing very well.
The best advertisement
Yes,
always.
word of mouth. And so I specialized in family law, contract law, wills, probate, and I did a little bit of criminal law, criminal defense. I did that for about 2 years. And every time I would go to the courthouse, I would run into my old colleagues from the state attorney's office, some of the old supervisors and bosses. When are you coming back? When are you coming back? And I really did miss it because I like trial work.
Mhm.
So ultimately, I went back to the state attorney's office in 2013, and I stayed there matriculating up. I, at one point, became the second in command in the domestic violence unit. And then I went on to the career criminal unit and then up to homicide. And that's where I was practicing in 2018 when several of my colleagues came to me, and it was colleagues both on both sides, prosecutors, defense attorneys, public defenders. I've always been friendly with everybody. And people were just coming to me out of the blue saying, there's positions coming open for judge. We think you should do it. We think you should do it. And so I prayed about it. And I said, you know what? I've been doing this a long time. I've always, I wouldn't say I always wanted to be a judge, but halfway through my career, I kind of said, you know what? We need judges that understand. We need judges that will follow the law and use their discretion fairly for everybody. We need
Now,
judges.
pardon me for interrupting, but how many years of practice did you have by that time?
By that time, close to 13 years of practice.
13 years. Now, is there a recommended time frame? 13 years, 5 years, 10 years? And the reason I ask you that is because naively, when I think about a judge, I think about somebody who is kind of old and has been kind of well seasoned in the law, who's been around for a very long time, because there's a lot of discretion when you're a judge. So I'm thinking, I really don't know the number of years. Is it 5? Is it 10 years? I know on paper, I think the minimum is 5 years.
5 years. The law, the legislature said, after practicing for 5 years, you are eligible to become a judge. I will tell you, there are many judges that have become judges after 5, 6 years of practice. Me personally, I knew I wasn't ready way back then. I wanted to, my goal was to have learned and seen enough trials, done enough trials to have actually practiced and litigated over enough areas of the law and gone up in the office far enough that I knew I was ready, not just ready to do it myself, but ready in skill, ready in understanding the law, understanding the rules of criminal procedure, understanding the rules of civil procedure, understanding the evidence code, because a judge needs to know all of that. You can't come out trying to learn the evidence code when you hit the bench. If you don't know the evidence code, you're going to mess up some stuff. If you don't understand the rules of civil and criminal procedure, there are going to be some issues because procedurally things have to be done according to the law. So I wanted to make sure I had practiced long enough and I had actually litigated enough cases on both sides to where I could serve the people of this county good justice. And so after 13 and a half, almost 14 years of practice, I was close to 14 years of practice. I said, you know what, I'm ready. I've gone all the way up on the criminal side to homicides. I've done first degree homicides on my own. Most of my trials were on my own. I've done civil trials. I've done family law. I've done contract law. I've done wills. I've done probate. So I was pretty seasoned, and I'm no baby. This is my third career. And so, like I said earlier, I'm married 26 years. I have 2 adult children. I come with a lot of life experience, and that's what judges need. But we also need to be young enough to have some longevity on the bench. You don't want to be changing judges every time, every term as well.
Right.
So
Every election cycle. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So talk to us as to how you became a judge, because for my students who will see this, I actually archive these interviews and I give them as assignments to my students. So there are two avenues by which one can become a judge, and talk about that a little bit.
okay, so there are two, like you said, there are two different ways to become a judge. The first way is the way I became a judge, and that is by the appointment process. And there's two schools of thought on which is better. I don't look at which is better. I think they kind of hold their own, because the appointment process is in a situation where a sitting judge, by whatever reason, whether they are retired, they retire before their term is over, they pass away before their term is over, they quit before their term is over, they're removed for whatever reason before their term is over, then the governor now has the right to appoint someone to replace that judge for the duration of that term. Each judge gets a term of 6 years. So if that judge, for whichever seat, sits in their position for 4 years and then retires, or sits in that position for 4 years and is removed, or whatever happens, then the governor has a right to appoint someone to fulfill the balance of that 6-year term. And that process, it's a very arduous process. There is a application. It's pretty much your entire life on paper.
Right.
And on top of that, or as a part of that, there's a very extensive background investigation that happens. And then there's a vetting process. And that vetting process happens with any and everybody. And when I say any and everybody who has had contact with you, it could be family members, friends from church, it could be people in the legal community. Certainly they will ask lawyers that you have worked with, lawyers that you have practiced against, judges you have appeared in front of.
Everyone.
Everybody to think of, people that you have worked for, both in the legal field and not in the non-legal field. Anybody and everybody that has ever had contact with you is fair game. It is a very, very extensive background and vetting investigation. And then you get interviewed by the Judicial Nominating Committee, and hopefully you come out with a nomination to the governor. Once you are nominated, your name goes on a shorter list, and then those people go up to the governor's office in Tallahassee, and you're again interviewed by another panel, and the governor then makes his or her selection. In my case, I interviewed, and at the time I interviewed, I ended up having to interview 3 times, because I initially interviewed for one position, and then several other positions started to come available. And so you just simply put your application in for each of those, and you get, that many stabs at it. And so ultimately I was appointed to the position in November of 2018.
Okay, so a couple of things, and pardon me for interrupting you, because I have 2 enemies in life. My 2 enemies are distance and time. I'm not sure if I'll be alive enough to do all the things I'd like to accomplish. And distance means that I'm not as close to people such as yourself who are making things happen in life. So you talked about the vetting process, and this is something I really am uncomfortable about, but it's the truth. I tell my students and my children and my community, one has to be extremely careful about their environment. They have to be very careful who they choose to interact with. The day that Ted Victor starts robbing banks, I expect you to hang up the phone and say, you know what, I cannot associate with Ted Victor anymore. So one has to, and it's hard because everybody needs somebody in their lives. However, if someone in your community or in your family or your environment is not on the same path that you are on, there has to be a separation, right?
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about choosing who you are with, because I believe in the power of environment, the power of energy, the power of positive energy, so that you can go in the same direction.
Absolutely. Like you, Ted, I have, like I said, I have 2 adult sons and I have a 13-year-old daughter. And as a mother, I've taught my kids the exact same thing. It's what's been instilled in me since I was a little girl. Be mindful of the company that you keep. That's a quote that was given to me at a young age. I shared it with my kids and I share it with kids that I mentor today. Be mindful of the company that you keep. Because, as you said, when you are moving on in life, it may not dawn on you today, but some of the people that you associate with, people that you run in circles with, may one day be called on the carpet, whether to be interviewed, to ask them about you, or simply people will look at, okay, who is this person? Who does she hang around with? Who is in her inner circle, so to speak? And if you're hanging out with the wrong type of people, people who are not on the path that you intend to go, it could be looked at as a negative on you. Doesn't necessarily mean you're doing the same things, but my mom always said, birds of a feather flock together.
So would it be fair to say, and again, I'm because I'm a parent and I'm an educator, kids make mistakes. So
Right.
it's human nature to kind of like experiment with life experiences. So would it be fair to say that if you were spending time with people who are not, let's just say, doing good things in society, you would not be a judge today?
Probably not.
Wow.
Probably, I wouldn't even say probably not. I'm sure of it. I'm
Okay.
sure of it.
Okay.
Because my
Okay.
my background and my character comes into play every day,
All the
and
time.
certainly through the process of being chosen. um, that's one of the main things they look at. What kind of character does this person have? Are they fit? Is she ready to represent the people of this county? And so I went through a very extensive background check and vetting process. So let's talk about the second way that you can become a judge. And that's what's I'm going through right now. It's through the elections process. It's the electorate where the people have the opportunity to choose. And so what happens is every 6 years, not every seat in our county comes up at the same time as far as the judges. If you notice, there are certain numbers that are up this election cycle. So if you have been on the bench and someone challenges your seat, then you go through an election process.
Correct.
And so my seat has been challenged. I have an opponent, and I'm actually campaigning and going through the elections process, or the campaign process, to be elected on August 18th.
Okay, so for the sake of the audience, because hundreds, possibly thousands, most likely thousands of Broward County residents will see this interview, and I particularly enjoy talking to candidates for an hour to really give you an opportunity to kind of get the audience to know who you are, because sometimes when you're answering questions for 2 minutes, you really don't have a sense of who the candidate really is. So
Right.
for the residents of Broward County, understand that this election is a countywide, correct? Countywide race.
Yes, it
You,
is.
which means that you're going to have to somehow shake the hands of every voter in this county. And through this interview, through social media, we're going to make that happen. And I am asking for the viewers of this video, of this interview, to think about who you want to be on the bench that can make a determination for your future, for any legal parameters regarding the law. And so you have to do your research. And if you're not willing to do the research, I'll do the research for you. I'm bringing you Judge Gina Hawkins so you can understand where she's from, where's her mindset. And we haven't even talked about diversity on the bench. We haven't talked about the challenges of the law, which we're going to talk about a little bit. So before we even end, and I will repeat this as at the ending of the interview, to make a conscious effort to go out and vote.
Yes.
I'm going to ask all of you seeing this video, there are a few of you who are live with me, go out and vote. Vote for Judge Gina Hawkins. And for those of you who speak Spanish, let me just take a minute, please forgive me. Being from the Dominican Republic, I have kind of blended into the African-American community, into the American community at large, and really at the end of the day, and we also have to talk about the other elephant in the room, COVID-19. We are all human beings. However, language brings us together. So let me just take a minute to say, a la comunidad latina, los dominicanos, los cubanos, la gente de Venezuela, la gente de Colombia, les pido el 18 de agosto que voten para la jueza Gina Hawkins. Ella es una persona que nos va a representar, que nos va a escuchar, que tenía la sensibilidad de escuchar donde nosotros estamos. So, de nuevo, el 18 de agosto hay que votar para Gina Hawkins. Les pido que hay que compartir esta información con sus vecinos, con su familia, con sus socios, gente de su comunidad. Les pido, por favor, que voten para Gina Hawkins. My mother was born in Haiti, and therefore she gave me the gift of Creole language. And there's just no way that you can get through a county-wide election without talking to the Haitian community, the Spanish community, the Brazilian community. So I'm going to just put that out there, and I'll do it again at the end to reach out to my brothers who are from Haiti, my Haitian American brothers and sisters, to vote 18 août. M'a demandé nous pour sortir, pour nous parler avec toute famille nous, toutes amis nous, toutes voisins nous, pour voter pour juge Gina Hawkins. Gina Hawkins, c'est lui-même qui comprend nous, qui sensible pour nous, qui représente nous. Alors là, même m'a demandé pour nous parler avec toute communauté nous, pour voter pour Judge Gina Hawkins 18 août. S'il vous plaît, 18 août, il y a un groupe 50. El grupo 50 hay que votar para ella. So let's go back to Judge Hawkins. And my specialty is reaching out to all the people in the community, everyone, I don't care, tall, short, green, yellow, red or blue, because this is nonpartisan, correct?
Nonpartisan, yes.
And when we say nonpartisan, it makes sense because when you're talking about the law, it really doesn't matter who comes before you in the court, what church they go to, what lifestyle they have, what political affiliation. The law is objectively the law, correct?
Correct.
So,
as a matter of fact,
go ahead, continue.
Let me stop you. It has always been my practice to greet my litigants as they come into the courtroom and say, this is your courtroom. So good morning and or good afternoon. But I always remind them that they have whatever issue that is before the court in that moment. But that the ruling of the court is not for one or for the other. It is in accordance with the law. So I don't rule for a person or against a person. I rule in accordance with the law. That simply means I'm always going to be impartial and fair. And I make sure that people are treated with respect and they understand why the law is what it is and why their situation has to be handled the way that it is. And that allows everybody to appreciate that I don't take sides and they can leave my courtroom with dignity.
Okay, so Judge Hawkins, I have a tough question for you. So we all have seen the statue with the blindfold, which means that the law is supposed to be objective, correct? If the law is meant to be objective, why is diversity important on the bench?
While the law is objective, I will be honest with you. The truth is we all come to the table with our own inhibitions, with our own background, with our own upbringing. And quite frankly, the law is for all people. It should be rendered in fairness for all people. That's what justice is. However, there are many areas of the law that allows judges to use their discretion. That is why you want judges who not only understand the law, not only have a diverse understanding and background in the legal knowledge of the law, you also want judges who understand the people that they serve.
Absolutely. Remind me to give you a hug when I see you. Thank you. Absolutely.
The only way
I wasn't supposed to interrupt. Sorry.
No, that's fine. But I say this all the time. We have 90 judges in Broward County. At the moment, only 11 of us are of color. But the opposite of that is Broward County is majority Black and brown people. That simply means that on any given day, yes, you can walk into any courtroom and you may get a white judge, you may get a woman, you may get a man. But the likelihood that as a Black person or a brown person, that you will get a judge that looks like you, that understands you, that have come from a world that they understand where you come from, they understand your language, they understand your ethnicity, they understand your
similar
lingo,
life experiences, world view, frustrations.
Right. So, you know, it's the likelihood that you're always going to get that in Broward County right now for Black and brown people is kind of slim. And so I am a believer in really, it shouldn't matter, but it does matter. It absolutely does matter because Broward County is such a vast and lively community, but we're such a huge melting pot. And I think our judiciary should absolutely reflect the community we serve.
Community, without a doubt. Yeah, you don't get an argument from me. You don't get an argument from me. All right, so here's another tough question for you, Judge Hawkins. Talk to us about the challenges you see in your world. What are the challenges of the law? What are the challenges of being on the bench? We have a lot of work to do. And this is, again, one of the many reasons why I'm out there in the community. I'm looking for people to be on the bench because you have an impact on my life, okay? So talk to us about some of the challenges that we are still seeing in 2020. And this is an uncomfortable conversation as a Black man, as a man of color, even though I'm from Latin America. We are in the era of George Floyd. There's just a lot going on in 2020. We got COVID-19, we got manifestations and protests, we have police brutality. So you're somehow supposed to balance all of that.
As a judge, you have to balance all of that. The first thing is to always remember that we are judges 24 hours a day. We don't get to, just because we take our robe off, I'm still a judge. And that simply means I have to be very careful. I can't get involved in the day-to-day rhetoric of having conversations and getting into debates about what's going on in society. Am I human? Absolutely. Do I see what's happening? Absolutely. I'm a Black woman living in the same society that all of this stuff is happening in.
Mother of Black men, married to a Black man.
Absolutely. And so is it scary to see the climate that we live in? Absolutely. But it's a whole different story to understand that as a judge, my position, while it may be my position, I kind of lose a right to speak on certain issues. And so I won't do that even here today. As a judge, I have to remain impartial. I have to understand that the law is the law. And I can't get involved in a whole lot of conversation and dialogue on what's happening, how I feel about it, what I think should happen, because ultimately we have to understand. And as a judge, I took an oath, and I will uphold the oath of upholding the law and administering justice, both fair and impartially. And so we can't really get into a lot of conversations because I have to remain neutral. And if I start spewing out certain things and, giving my position on things, then how then am I going to be impartial should that same thing come before me? So I have to be very careful.
I totally respect that. Totally respect that. for academic purposes and for the sake of my students. Give us an example of what is a conflict of interest.
Oh, there's so many different areas, so many issues. Conflicts of interest could be something as simple um, as a judge. If someone walks into my courtroom, I'm very connected to the community that I serve in. I have a lot of family that live right here in Broward County. Someone walks in and a case gets assigned to me that, is someone that I know personally or someone in my family, then the right thing for me to do, the only thing for me to do is to immediately bring it to the attention of my chief and get off that case, because I want to, as a judge, always um, make sure that any appearance of impropriety is avoided. And so that's one conflict of interest that I would have to get out of that case. Something else I could think of, uh, if someone that I used to work with, uh, and this happened to me before when I first took the bench, someone that I used to work with came before me. I had to immediately tell the other side and get their approval to move forward. Now, this person wasn't a personal friend of mine, wasn't someone that I even, dealt with outside of the office. I knew the person and we used to work together, but it could have been a conflict of interest. And so I make sure as a judge, I disclose it and allow the attorneys involved to say, Judge, we trust you. You can stay on it, or we think maybe you should get off the case. Now, in that situation, they allowed me to stay on the case because they believed that I would be fair, regardless of the fact that I once upon a time worked with this person years ago. But it still was something that could have been seen as a conflict of interest. So you raise those issues, you disclose it. One situation, I get out of the case. The other situation, I didn't have to get out the case. So those are two examples, but there's so many different ways conflicts of interest could come up.
Now, if I may, and again, you can decline to answer, if I may, can you tell us and give us an example of a general, in general terms of a case that you took home with you that was very difficult, because you talked about being human, you're a judge. However, at the end of the day, you are a human being. So talk to us about probably taking home a case with you here whereby, my goodness, this was a really, really tough case. So, or are they all just very easy? You make your decision and you wind up going home to your family and having a wonderful dinner.
Well, I'll be quite honest with you, and to be fair, and to also not get myself into any trouble. I'll just speak in general terms.
Right.
I'll tell you right now that some of the toughest cases came out of the family court. Um, it's very hard. These are not cases that some of the issues you can just decide from the bench and you're done. But many of these, because they are dealing with the lives of people, children are involved. These are marriages that are involved. Property is involved. You know, sometimes they can get very, very hard when you start to dealing with the emotional side of it. In family court, you see a lot of tears. Uh, it tugs at your heartstring. If you are half a human being, I don't know how you sit on some of these cases and it not tug at your heartstring. There are many cases that I've laid down at night and thought, wow, if I rule this way, this is going to happen, and if I rule that way, this could happen. You just, when you are a family person like I am, I'm married, I have children, I understand what it means for children to have their both parents in their lives. I understand what it means when for whatever reason children, the nucleus of a home is being torn apart. What is it going to do to the babies?
Mhm.
That's what's hard, because you can deal with most times what's happening with the adults. The hard part and what tugs at the heartstrings, what's going to happen with the babies? Can I make sure I put certain things in place to give the children what they need from both parents, but also provide balance and stability in two separate homes? It can get hard, but again, being married, having children of my own, being in the community and understanding so many different ethnicities. You spoke of Dominican Republic. That's a very special place in my heart. That place is a place I
Oh,
vacated, you know, at least 3 to 4 times now. I love the community
oh
that's
yes.
there. I love the people. I have very close ties to the Asian community. I have, Jamaicans and Haitians, very, very close friends, family members that are Jamaican. I have a niece who's interracially married with a white guy. I'm very much in tune with across the board. And so
And
I
that's
love it.
necessary, but that's necessary for a judge. You need to be able to relate to just about any group, any type of ethnic group, any type of cultural circle. That's absolutely necessary.
Right. And you have to understand the cultural language. And when I say the cultural language, I'm not necessarily speaking dialect. I'm speaking the matters of the heart, how they operate, how the body language. If you don't understand the dynamic of a Haitian household and the respect that's given to Haitian men in the household, it doesn't make the woman docile. It simply means that's her upbringing. And when you come from that background, and if you understand it, you understand that when it comes to court, what it's going to look like
Mhm, mhm,
versus
mhm.
a regular African American household that doesn't come from Haiti or any other part of the Caribbean. You understand the cultural differences that occur from one, island to the other, or the islands versus the Americas. So it only happens when you understand and you have a connection to the communities.
Now, and I think you probably already answered it just now. Does that understanding come from training for judges, or does that understanding come from a human being before you're even a judge? Because there are professional development trainings, right? For you to be able to understand what's going on in your field, you can learn that way. Or is this understanding something that you embodied before you even became a judge?
I'll be honest, this is something I embodied long before becoming a judge. Again, I'm very involved in the community. I'm a mentor. Many of the young ladies that I mentor, they come from all different walks of life, all different ethnicities, all different backgrounds. So I've mentored white girls, Black girls, Hispanic girls,
Mhm.
Asian girls. And that just mentoring the girls gives me a connection to the families. Okay. I've also been for a long time a motivational speaker.
We're going
So
to talk about that. I'm very interested in that.
I've been invited to all different types of programs to come and speak women's issues, domestic violence. And I'll tell you, for a very long time as a prosecutor, my heart and soul was for domestic violence victims. And I totally understand the cycle. I know what people go through, and it's not just women. There are men that fall victim to domestic violence, but I understand it, and I understand. I have a knack for how to counsel and speak with those women, and so that is another avenue that taught me very early in my legal career how to deal with different ethnicities and backgrounds, which is how I've uh, heightened my ability and my skill of understanding what happens in a family court because I dealt with domestic issues for so many years as a prosecutor and before. So I totally understand by
Okay.
way of just doing it.
Okay, so talk a little bit more about the value of mentors in the community, because I, I can talk about that forever. but I want to hear from you as a seasoned community professional. Talk to us about the value of mentoring, because I know that you and Mr. Hawkins embody that all the way. And where are we without mentors? Who are we without mentors?
So let me start by saying, and you've kind of touched on it, my husband has his own organization, Fathers MIA, and through that organization, I am one of the resident speakers and mentors for those young ladies. But even before my husband ever started, I have always taken young people under my wings. As a prosecutor, I've always taken the younger prosecutors in. My policy was always open door. If you need a senior prosecutor to help you, someone to help you look at your cases, someone to help you understand your cases, but also I was there to be someone who understands the inner workings of our office. What should you do? Who should you talk to if you want this to happen? If you think you want to be promoted to this area, why you want to do it? I was always that one that people came to. Why we are as mentors so important. Many of our young people, the only way they see a future is through the eyes of someone else. It's some of them have no idea that they can until they see someone
Absolutely.
who looks like them that already has.
Absolutely.
And not just as a judge, but just as an adult woman in this society, one who has gone through the ranks in many areas of my life, I think that the service that I owe, the repayment for where I am today is always to give back. And there's a quote that one of my good friends, she always posts: service is the price that we pay for the space we occupy. And the fact that I have—
Wait, repeat that, because I get like these little golden nuggets during these interviews, and that's one of them. So therefore, repeat that, please. Service is
the price we pay for the space we occupy. And I'm not sure where she gets it from, but I got to shout out Felicia Brunson, Commissioner Felicia Brunson, for that quote, because that's something that she quoted years ago, and it hit me. And like you, I'm like, I gotta steal it. But it's so true. Service is the price that we pay for the space we occupy. And so it's wonderful that I came from where I came from, born and raised right here in West Park, matriculated through public school system in Broward County, went on and worked in some of the same places these young people work in, went to BSO and worked, went to law school at Nova, became an assistant state attorney, and made my way to becoming a judge. It's one thing for them to see judges, right? It's something different for them to touch the judge. And when I say touch the judge, that's someone who will go back and say, what you see in me is you. I am you.
That's right.
It's all about the decisions that we make, the choices that we make in life, and always having someone there who can go. It's that old saying, each one reach one. Or I like to say, each one teach one. Go back and grab one and pull them up. And that is a service that is in my heart to do for our young people. Always make myself available. Most of the children that I mentor will tell you, they have my cell phone. They can call me directly. And I always make sure that the parents know, listen, is it okay that they have my cell phone?
Right, yeah, definitely. As a teacher, I definitely understand that.
Yes. Make sure the parents know.
Absolutely.
And make sure that I have a relationship with the parent, or guardian, so that we are on the same page. Because I always tell my young people, you can talk to me in confidence, but at the time I think something criminal is happening or something that's going to cause be a problem for your safety, best believe I'm going to get mom and dad involved, or mom or dad or whoever's there as your guardian. And so, but I give them a comfort of knowing, the comfort of knowing that they have someone who, regardless of my position in life, I understand you, and I'm not too big that I can't talk to you, and I'm here to help you. You need help filling out your college applications, I can help you. You want to talk to somebody about what school to choose, let's talk about it. And that's what I have become for so many of these young women, and I don't take it lightly, but neither does it become a problem for me. I enjoy it because, again, I am who they see as, wow, I can do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have two daughters, and we've talked about this before. So this right here is professional, but it's also personal. Your success is the success of my community. So I totally understand. Now, very quickly before we go to the close, because believe it or not, we're approaching an hour. What is the biggest difference? I know time flies. What is the biggest difference in mindset? We probably as a community understand functionally the difference, but what is the biggest difference in mindset between being an attorney and being a judge?
In mindset, the transition for me, and I can only speak for me, um, it's a very humbling experience to be sitting in a position where you have to shift your thinking now. And as an attorney, you come in knowing your case, knowing your argument to win your side of the case. The difference is, as a judge, you come in knowing the case, knowing both sides, and understanding that I am neutral.
Neutral.
I'm here to listen. I'm not the one making the arguments.
To not be
I'm
partial.
not the
Correct.
one arguing the law. As a judge, I'm here to maintain the professionalism in the courtroom, to listen to the arguments, listen to the issues that arise, and make rulings. That's and those rulings have to be fair, impartial, and in accord with the law. That's my only job.
Absolutely.
And so that's the transition that you have to make from being an attorney, where you're coming in, you may think you know the other side's arguments and you may be ready for it, but you're coming in and you're just attacking, and you're trying to win your side of it. Right. As a judge, it's not about winning a side. It's about listening to both sides equally.
Right.
Giving both sides due process, listening intently, and making sure the facts and the law go together.
Well said, well said. Okay, Judge Hawkins, let's talk about August 18th again. You have an opponent. Yes. And I'd like for the community, we have a few people on the line. As I said, thousands of people will see this, because my specialty is not to just interview community trailblazers, but it is to repost on social media continuously until the date of the election. Why should the community vote for you?
Why the community should vote for me? One, I'm lively, I'm energetic, and I'm ready to do the work.
We can see that, we can see that.
I'm ready to continue in the work that was entrusted to me to start. As I've stated before, Broward is a very large county. It's very diverse. And Broward County deserves a few things in a judge. I'm passionate about the law. I'm passionate about people, but mostly I'm passionate about the fair, impartial delivery of rulings that are in accord with the law. That's what justice is, and that's my passion, making sure justice is truly for all people. Broward deserves a judge that is committed, someone who is here to do the right thing for the right reasons. That is me. Broward deserves a person who is authentic. I'm authentic. I am as real as they come. What you see is what you get.
Absolutely.
Broward deserves someone who is resilient, someone with stick-to-itiveness, somebody who will stick and stay and fight for what's right and do the right thing. Broward County deserves someone who is energetic and someone who is a servant for excellence. I'm passionate about doing the right thing, but doing things the right way. I think that every litigant that walks into a courtroom deserves the court process to be one that the judge handles with excellence and with care. And finally, I think Broward County deserves a servant, someone who is wholly connected to the community that we serve, someone who is excited about the community that we serve, and someone who has not just popped up on the scene just because I want to be a judge today.
Right.
Someone who has given in public service. Much of my career has been in public service, and I want to continue in the service to Broward County. I'm born and raised here. I have an affinity for the people of Broward County. Again, it's diverse. Not only do I bring diversity to the bench in race, in ethnicity, in gender, but I also bring diversity in my legal background and my legal knowledge. You're not looking at someone who's only practiced several years in one area. I can go to many areas, be assigned to many areas, and be hitting the ground running the same day. You're not looking at someone who has to come in and learn the rules of procedure, not looking at someone who has to come in and learn the evidence code. Because of my skilled background, I've already accomplished those things. So I have to come, what you want is a judge that can come in ready to listen, ready to do the work, and ready to make a ruling. And that to be one that's fair, one that's going to be respectful, and one that's going to get the job done. And if you look at all the things I pointed out, committed, authentic, resilient, one who moves in excellence, and a servant to the people, that spells out the word cares. And that is me. Broward County needs a judge who cares, and I'm the judge that cares. So all I can say, vote Hawkins, the judge who cares, on August 18th or before.
Group 50. Respectfully, Judge Hawkins, respectfully, I'm going to add one more adjective. This is, and you've mentioned it in different words, you've used a few synonyms. I would use the word receptive. One of the things I do as an educator is I actually look for professionals in the community to take in my students for a day and give them a bird's eye view as to what they do and also feed them for the day. And when I approached you, you were immediately receptive. And any professional who takes the time to talk to my students, to tell them what they can be and who they can be and what they can do with their lives holds a very special place in my heart. So based on your story, I don't believe that anything is an accident. I do believe that all of this is part of God's plan. Your record of community engagement, your record of community service, the name Hawkins means something in Broward County. I am predicting 2020 to 2026, you're going to be on a bench, and I'm going to be able to call you once a year. I'm going to try not to call you too much. Judge Hawkins, can I bring my students to your courtroom? And I will most likely see the receptivity you gave me upon meeting me. You didn't know who Ted Victor was. Who's Ted Victor? Ted Victor, who's Ted Victor? But you said, Ted Victor, you want to bring students? Come on in. And believe me, not everybody's as receptive as you are. So I thank you very, very much for where you've been, for where you are, and where you're going. My daughters will see you. My daughters will be influenced by you, will be probably shadowing you, and you'll be doing this, and you have been doing this for the community. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind on August 18th, you are going to be the winner in Group 50. I cannot thank you.
To God's ears.
I cannot thank you enough.
Ted, and thank you again so much. I just want to point out that absolutely anytime you call, as I stated before, your courtroom my courtroom is always your courtroom. And that's not just for you, Ted, that's for anybody in the county. I've had many people come to me and say, Judge, can I come and watch? Absolutely, you can come and watch. The only time I would close my courtroom is if I'm doing something that's confidential. Other than that, my courtrooms have always been open. I have had the awesome opportunity to allow students to come in and shadow me, even as a prosecutor. And I continued with that as a judge, where I allowed students to come and sit on the bench with me, next to me, and see if this is something you really want to do. And that is because I have a passion for young people. And I think that the first time they see the inside of a courtroom should never be when they have to appear before a judge.
Right.
And many times we find that when young people have the opportunity to meet judges and to meet people that are in these positions, you have opportunity to make a change in their life, even if they
Absolutely.
are going to go the wrong way. We have an opportunity to talk to them and make sure they understand you want to be on the right side of this. And so I enjoy always speaking to the young people. And then I also enjoy going out and speaking to our elderly community, because many of them, they're home, they're retired, and they say, hey, can we come by? I always say, absolutely. So anybody that want to come in and sit with me during hearings or watch me at work, my courtroom is always open, because as Broward County residents, the courtrooms belong to you.
Well, there you have it, social media land. August 18th is the day you are going to help support this major endeavor. I'm asking all of the viewers of this interview to share it, please, with all of your neighbors, your coworkers, and get the word out to vote for Judge Gina Hawkins on August 18th in 2020, so that she may remain a circuit court judge in Group 50 in Broward County. My brothers and sisters from Haiti, my Haitian American brothers, 18 août, m'a demandé nous pour sortir avec tous amis nous, tous voisins nous, tout le monde nous connaît pour voter pour juge Gina Hawkins dans Groupe 50. S'il te plaît, votez pour lui. Mis hermanos que hablan español, mis latinos, por favor, el 18 de agosto, hay que salir, votan para la jueza Judge Hawkins el 18 de agosto, que comparten esta información con sus vecinos y los miembros de su familia, los miembros de su comunidad. Ella es una persona que nos va a entender. A nosotros les agradezco de antemano y profundamente. Judge Hawkins, I cannot tell you how delighted I am we have been able to have this opportunity to have this conversation. I look forward to working with you again. I look forward to doing more work in the community. And I do believe that all of this is part of God's plan. It's bigger than you, it's bigger than me. And I do believe that there's a seat for you at the courthouse after August 18th. I thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Ted. Again, thank you. And thank you to all of your listeners out there. God bless you all.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you for everybody who attended. And we're going to see you probably tomorrow with Mr. Hawkins. And so we can basically hear about his organization. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. You have a wonderful evening, Judge Hawkins.
You do the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you.